Hello and welcome to my astrology channel. My name is Martine, and if you are new here, I do videos on Vedic astrology mainly, but also with some tropical insights. And if you like this video and you would like to hear more content from me, please like, subscribe, hit the notifications bell to see when I will post a new video. And if you're interested in a personal consultation, I do consultations on a wide variety of subjects. Please check out the video description. I will leave the information there. Thank you. So today's topic is going to be a rather, well, I hope a rather short video, but I'm not sure how long it's going to take. It's going to be about Sun conjunct Rahu and Sun conjunct Ketu in synastry, namely romantic relationships. This is again something that I have meant to do for a while. I'm not sure if it was requested. I know several aspects in synastry have been requested, but I hope that you would enjoy it nevertheless, and please comment in the comment section if you have anything to say about this topic. But so what do I have to say about this? First of all, if you have watched the video that I made a while ago about how to read Rahu and Ketu in synastry and the natal chart, then you will know that Rahu, aka the North Node, increases every energy that it touches. In other words, expands and emphasizes and basically magnifies the energy of any planet that it touches, while Ketu diminishes, especially over time, the energy of any planet that it touches. And this is a really oversimplified, well, description for the Rahu Ketu dynamic. What actually happens is, so briefly I'm going to go over Rahu Ketu and what they mean. So Ketu shows the sum of all of your past life experiences. So it refers to things that you have experienced over and over again in past incarnations, and you are mastering that area right now. So you feel very comfortable in your Ketu situation on the one hand, but Ketu also represents things that you basically have to leave behind. So Ketu represents a lot of things, right? In a person's chart, it shows, on the one hand, it actually shows their ability to think in the abstract, for instance. So people who are Ketu-dominant can be very good at abstract sciences like mathematics, for instance. And they are also very interested in, learning the big picture, spiritual issues, things like, physics, to the point where it borders on philosophy. You would expect that to show up in a person's chart if they have a very strong Ketu. And Ketu shows things that you are basically very comfortable in, and comfortable also means that you can be really rigid around these things. Like Ketu kind of shows the area where you want things to stay the way that they are, and things that you kind of cling to, and it's difficult for you to leave these things because of course you have mastered them throughout previous incarnations, and now this is basically your comfort zone, and but you need in this life, this life is going to be pushing you to go towards Rahu, towards your Rahu placement. So your Rahu placement shows areas that you have underdeveloped. Maybe you have little to no previous experience in, previous meaning from previous lifetimes, because, astrology does go hand in hand with reincarnation. So, yeah. And Rahu shows the things that you have to experience in this life, or that the soul wants to experience in this life. So the energy of Rahu is, while on the one hand, it's a constant kind of, light at the end of the tunnel. It's something that you are constantly drawn towards, but at the same time, it's an area that is fraught with fear and insecurities. And it's also an area where you can tend to take this approach of fake it till you make it. It can show an area that you are so desperate to get, to that Rahu placement, that you are willing to, walk over dead bodies to get it. This is a worst case scenario, like depending on how strong Rahu is and what other planets are influencing it. But generally, this is what it shows. So like Rahu is this really voracious, like hungry, kind of like in the legend, which I described in that video, which I will be linking in the description. It's, you know, the head of the dragon, a dragon-like demon that was cut and now is floating through outer space, and it's continuously hungry because the food never reaches the stomach. So it literally shows this area where you're constantly hungry for more, and where you want to have more and more and more experiences of where that Rahu is placed in your chart. And so why is this important when it comes to synastry? It's really important. Because the Rahu, so people whose planets are conjunct your Rahu are people that you can perceive as people aiding your desire. So these are people that make you think that you can easily achieve your material desires when you are with them. And this is another big dichotomy between Rahu and Ketu. Rahu is materialism, and Ketu is spirituality, which I also mentioned in that video. So Rahu is the world of the Maya, the illusion of the material world, and Ketu is spirituality. And this is why you see, you know, people who are very Ketu-dominant are always going to be interested in spirituality, and they're going to be not, you know, they won't care about things like social status and money and all like material possessions as much, whereas people who are very Rahu-dominant, they will be all about, you know, social status and fame and getting the good life and possessions and all this stuff, because they are really, really you know, meant to experience the Maya. They're gonna go deep into the Maya, into the material world and all this stuff in this lifetime. So Sun conjunct Rahu. See, it's really funny because this is another area where you can see like why tropical, I think, is a little bit flawed. Because when I used to be into tropical, which was for most of the, I don't know, the first 10 years when I was into astrology, I would always read these descriptions that said, you know, both Rahu conjunct Sun and Ketu conjunct Sun, they were all positive descriptions. You know, like, you're supposed to feel good with these people, you know, like the Rahu conjunction Sun was, the description was something like, this person is going to help you achieve in this life. With the Ketu, it's like you've had a past life connection with this person and you're going to feel comfortable around them. Well, this is a really kind of an oversimplified interpretation, and it's really interesting, again, when you talk about it in terms of genders. And this is probably, well, people who are more familiar with Vedic astrology probably have already heard this, but it really depends a lot on what gender the person is. The Rahu, the gender of the person who is playing the Rahu, and the gender of the person who is playing the Sun. And for the Ketu Sun, the same thing. And the gender is not the only thing, but once again, what is really important is you have to look at these people's conditions. This is where it gets really interesting. And I have mentioned this in like several other videos, for instance, because if a woman has a damaged Sun, a damaged Jupiter, any of these signifiers that show the men in her life, you know, this basically means that this woman has some trauma about, let's say, maybe her father was an abusive character, or whatever. Maybe she's had past experiences of abuse with men. If a woman like this, and usually you can tell these by having a really damaged Sun, a really damaged Jupiter, having, to a lesser extent, the 10th house as well, if you have malefics in the 10th house, or ruler of the 8th house or the 6th house falling into the 10th, shows bad relationship with the father. So if you see a lot of these influences, and again, Sun aspected natally by Rahu, by Ketu, by Mars, by Saturn, Sun debilitated, Sun in the 4th house, Sun in the 7th house, Sun in Libra, Sun in any sign ruled by Venus or Saturn or Rahu, the nakshatras ruled by Venus, Saturn, Rahu. These sun signs that are really debilitated, really afflicted, they show a painful kind of father figure and a painful relationship with men in general. And a woman like this, you know, the traditional description for Sun conjunct Rahu is that it is good when the woman is the Rahu and the man is the Sun. Why? because according to Indian society, of course, the man has to play the lead role. In other words, quote, traditional society, but whatever. I won't get into the feminist discussions right now. But yeah, this is the Indian society view, that it's always supposed to be the man who is, playing the sun, the dominant leader, whatever character in the relationship, and the woman should be kind of like the supportive background person, or kind of like a assistant to the sun. And this is why traditional texts will say that Sun conjunct Rahu is positive. But the problem is that if the woman has damaged Sun, or like damaged placements in her chart that show a bad relationship with male figures in her life, this is actually not going to be the case. And the thing is that men might be attracted to women whose Rahu is conjunct their Sun, but the woman in question may not feel comfortable with this relationship because it might bring, past traumas and stuff. And this is kind of like where you have to look at the individual charts, right? And with the Sun conjunct Ketu, what happens is that traditional texts will say that it is good when it's the woman being the Sun and the man being the Ketu, and it's bad the other way around. Why? Because again, Ketu diminishes everything that it touches, while Rahu increases. So in other words, when a woman's Ketu is conjunct a man's Sun, initially there might be a little bit of an attraction. There will be a feeling of like comfort there, because again, Ketu shows past life connections. So if you have had a past life connection with this person, there will be a sense of familiarness of the familiar. So you're going to be feeling like this could literally be that in a past life you were a child and father, because the Sun is the father. But it can also be like a leader, like this person was your leader in somehow, either military or a manager, or your boss, or somebody who was involved with the state, for instance, representing the institutions of state. So there would be some kind of a past life connection. But what happens is, if a woman actually has a damaged Sun situation, or a damaged Mars, or any of the aspects that show a bad relationship with the father, or a bad relationship with men in general, a damaged Jupiter, for instance, that's another one. This basically means that she would actually be more comfortable in a situation where, let's say, her Ketu is conjunct the Sun. This could be for a number of reasons. Of course, you have to look at the full picture, but I've actually seen this is something I've noticed like empirically over the years in relationships and stuff. But this is what happens, like, because the Ketu is diminishing the man's ego. The Sun is the ego, think of the Sun as kind of like the roaring lion, so the more Sun energy a man has, the more he's like macho and boastful and domineering and controlling to some extent. Maybe not so much controlling, because that's more Saturn, but domineering, like my way is the it's my way or the highway, that kind of thing. And when a woman's Ketu is conjunct this person's Sun, his qualities of masculinity will be diminished, so he will become more spiritual. He will tone down his typical leadership, boastfulness, and all this stuff, and maybe be more sensitive, but on the other hand, it could also make him more apathetic, or like not caring about material things, which can also bring other complications down the line. But it will definitely make a person, the man in question, feel more spiritually inclined when he is around this woman. And the other way around, what I've seen is that men sometimes are attracted to women whose Ketu is conjunct their Sun, but the woman in question is not happy with this. Because if the woman in question doesn't have a damaged relationship with the father, or doesn't have like a damaged basically Sun or Jupiter in principle, but also the 10th house, look at all these things, it shows that she has a rather healthy relationship with men, and she will want a man who is very much the manly man. Like she will want a typical man who takes care of things and is reliable and will be protective and all this stuff. So she will want a man who plays the roaring lion. And when her Ketu is conjunct the man's sun, she will feel like this guy is, not manly enough, or like the longer they are together, she will feel like she has to put on the pants and make all the decisions and take the lead, while he is kind of like, not really enterprising, not really, pulling his weight in the relationship, or worst of all, letting her take the lead, which is what these women would hate. So this is interesting, because it's so interesting to see how much each individual person's chart influences how these synastry aspects will play out. And what else did I want to say? Like with the Rahu conjunct Sun. So when it's the woman being the Sun, this is another very interesting thing. So when it's the woman being the Sun, it's and the man is being the Rahu, it's similar to when it's the man being the Sun and the woman being the Ketu, in the sense that the woman will feel that the man is boosting her ego. And this is another thing, because in Indian, this is another one of those aspects where in the traditional text they say that this is bad. So it's bad for a woman to have her sun conjunct her male partner's Rahu, because this will inflate her ego. So she will become the roaring lion. The longer she is with this man, the more she will feel that she gets an ego boost, and she feels stronger and more confident and more, more of the leader and all this stuff. And the man will start feeling like he is being a mouse around her. Like eventually, the longer they are together, the more she will put on the pants, the more bossy she will become, the more authoritative she will become, and all this stuff. And again, this can vary on the two individual charts to see if they will be happy with this dynamic or not. Because if you have a man who maybe he is used to women being more in leadership positions, like maybe he had a mother who was very career oriented, so he's comfortable around a woman being, being the decision maker and independent and making decisions by herself and being rational and planning things and making, whatever, all this stuff. But on the other hand, you could have a man who is not used to this. He wants a traditional stay-at-home wife, and for a man like that, then it is a bad thing to have his Rahu conjunct the woman's sun, because he will feel less masculine by virtue of the fact that she keeps getting more masculine in his presence. She will start feeling, like more egotistical, more, whatever, all this stuff, more of an ego boost. And for the woman, again, it depends on her situation. A woman who has, for instance, a damaged sun might appreciate the dynamic that she feels when the man's Rahu is conjunct her sun, because she will feel like more confident, even though it could be a fake confidence, because Rahu is a trickster. There's another nuance to take into account. Meaning it could be like she gets a fake sense of, importance, like she feels stronger, she feels more confident, she feels like this man is boosting her ego, or allowing her to take on more responsibilities and to have more authority and more power and all this stuff. And she might enjoy it. But a woman who maybe has a strong sun and she doesn't have any conjunctions between her masculine and feminine planets. Remember, I talked about this in previous videos. Because if a woman has conjunctions between her feminine and masculine planets, then she will really identify with her masculine energy. And if she doesn't, and she only has connections between feminine planets, then she is most likely not going to want to own her masculine energy. She will feel more comfortable if she has a partner who takes on the role of the masculine energy in her life. So a woman like that, if she finds herself in a relationship where the man's Rahu is conjunct her sun, she will not feel comfortable with this, because she will feel like she's being made to play the lead role against her will. She will made to feel like she has to be the one to always take the initiative, to make all the heavy decisions by herself and all this stuff, and that the man is basically being too passive in the relationship. So that's pretty much it. And yeah, I mean, this is what I've noticed, so I would be very curious to hear if you can relate to this, or maybe you've had similar experiences, or maybe not. Maybe you've had happy relationships with Sun conjunct Rahu, Sun conjunct Ketu in synastry. But this is pretty much what I've noticed based on the readings that I've done and based on my own experiences as well. And yeah, once again, if you've enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe, hit the notifications bell to see when I will post a new video. And if you're interested in a personal consultation, I do consultations on a wide variety of subjects. Please check out the video description. I will leave the information there. Thank you.